The following is a special presentation of Tony Curry Radio. Want the real story behind the sound bites and headlines? Let's find the facts. Remember, it's not a conspiracy theory if it's the truth. You are not paranoid or confused. You just need to know.
Welcome, everybody. It's Monday morning. That means one thing and one thing only, and not the start of a new week. It means need to know on TKR. Kip Kiefer with you, fulfilling my duties to tell you everything that I think it's important for you to know. And there's a lot going on in the world, a lot happening, and always ready to talk about it and share it with you. Again, if you're a new listener, and once again, as always, I apologize to the regulars, but we don't tell you what to think here. We try to give you information to help you think for yourself, and that is what's seriously lacking in our country right now. Too many people are influenced by the noise out there. You've got to block it out. You've got to sit, you've got to study, you've got to contemplate. You have to be informed on everything that's going on and not be pigeonholed into getting your source of information from a one-dimensional source, because the days of responsible journalism, the days of there being ethics and do's and don'ts in terms of the conveyance of information are gone. We live now in a partisan, completely biased environment where a lot of the problems in this country right now are people on both sides of the ledger being 100% reliant on getting all of their information from basically one source, whether it be, on cable television with MSNBC or CNN, as opposed to the other side of the ledger, of course, Fox News, News Nation, different outlets like that. But when you get just one-dimensional and you get all the information from one source, you are frequently clueless about what's really going on, because they are styling their messaging and information to just completely get you to their side of the viewpoint. And it's really not a healthy thing whatsoever. And it's not responsible in terms of being balanced and being journalistically responsible for giving you as many sides and as many perspectives of an issue as possible. And we don't live in simple times. It's not A or B. It's A, B, C, D, E, F, G, or even H sometimes, of the different ways to look at things that are happening, not just in our immediate circle here, but in the world overall. So that's the message going in. I'm going to start on a topic that was not really my idea for this week, but I've just become fascinated more with thinking about it the last 24 hours. So just a quick snippet to get us rolling today on the continuing conflict in the Middle East, in Iran, the struggle to keep the Strait of Hormuz open, which is a critical international shipping lane. Although I told you in the last couple of weeks that it's really kind of an interesting aspect to that we're not talking about here in American media. It's how it's so critical to the economic security of the world. But the shipment of oil and natural gas through the Straits of Hormuz really is not an American issue. Sure, the instability of the worldwide oil and energy market affects our prices to some degree, but they won't do it very long term, because we as the United States are not one iota reliant on the Straits of Hormuz for our energy needs. The president has dramatically increased production in this country after the 4 years of the lost puppet administration, where pretty much all energy production came to a grinding halt under the bogus blanket of climate change and response to trying to force people away from fossil fuels and the traditional ways that our country has been powered since its inception. And now we're back on track. Even a fascinating story I saw this week of how California is back online with a massive offshore drilling initiative just off the coast near Santa Barbara, a place that is one of the most productive in all of our country as far as being a source of unlimited amounts of energy. Millions and millions of barrels can be generated from this offshore drilling rig, and they've revived a couple of refineries and storage facilities on the mainland and revived the pipeline that connects these energy-rich entities. California used to be amongst the right alongside with Texas and other places in the desert Southwest, some of the most productive oil and natural gas resources in the country. And then, of course, with the crazies taking over in California with all of their absurd environmental procedures and all of the rigid standards and regulatory compliance rules that these oil companies had to adhere to, they just ran them right out of business, and they have not been productive in many years. But the really ridiculous thing, and this is what you need to know because the conventional media sure as hell's not telling you, guess where the void for California in terms of that energy they are no longer producing, guess where that need is being filled by? It is through the importation of almost 75% of the oil and gas that they need to power their state. This is a state, that has prohibited being involved in producing it themselves, yet they'll bring in from South America, parts of the Middle East, and other points unknown, Alaska, predominantly those three sources of bringing in oils by these giant tankers, which is just as big, if not a bigger threat to the environment, because you have one Exxon Valdez or some kind of disaster in this continuous shipping to fulfill your energy needs. And it's just as big an environmental disaster as any kind of accident with a faulty pipeline or any of those refinery concerns. So it's just hypocrisy. It's ridiculous. California's already in tremendous financial distress. And yet, instead of producing their own energy, they're importing it from all over the world, which is absolutely nonsense. If this stuff is so bad and so toxic to the environment, you're still going to import just unbelievable amounts. I mean, it's just not justifiable. But anyway, those are some of the things that are kind of marinating here. And I get back to the original topic because, as usual, I've left the building, gone off the off ramp. But it was all important to point out that the Straits of Hormuz, again, not critical to our energy independence, particularly with the moves we've just made in Venezuela, which is going to be a future mother lode of energy and providing, as they are our partners again, and will be continually developing into a great partner now that they are not controlled by Marxist narco terrorists. America is in great shape for energy abundance. So the Straits of Hormuz is not our fight. And the world, especially the Europeans, looking to America, well, you got to keep that open. That's vital to everybody. Well, it's not vital to us, folks. And we got to start thinking America first, because the priority of Americans and this country, to me, is the big story. And, the rest of the world, if they don't want to roll up their sleeves and fend for themselves, we got to get out of the business of carrying the rest of the world. It's not our responsibility. We have, of course, a lot of strategic partners and a lot of historic, a long time cohorts, but these countries got to stand on their own, and it's high time that happened. So, with all that said, this incursion in Iran, which is not a war, because the Iranians' response after the initial blow they took was to have who knows who ordering just random attacks. They did have a huge stockpile of ballistic missiles that was increasing all the time. So this action was absolutely necessary. Plus, they were continuing, despite the summertime uh, complete destruction of their nuclear facility. They had salvaged a lot of the uranium they had already enriched and were already on the road to having a couple of nuclear weapons that they could deploy. And believe me, these crazy people that have been in charge, the theocratic, I've told you, 8th century viewed clerics and religious mullahs that are in charge of that country, including the late Ayatollah Khamenei, who ate a giant missile in his not in his bunker underground, above ground at that site, because they were so confident that they had everything under control until the Israelis spoiled the Tea Party with about 24 waves of attack and wiped out all of the senior leadership of Iran, including the Reverend, I should say, Ayatollah Khamenei, who met a bad end at the age of 86. But bet your bottom dollar, world analysts and experts have said this guy believed it was his destiny to start the great war, the great conflict, the showdown between the Islamic states and the Muslim faith and the infidels, everybody in the world who believed in something other than what they believe in. And that made all of us intolerant and not worthy of maintaining life. That is the 8th century doctrine written by these crackpots that that anyone not embracing their religion and their beliefs were not fit to live. They were infidels. And this guy actually believed it was his destiny to start that conflict. That's why the nation of Iran has spawned the three biggest proxy terrorist organizations. They funded them. They have supplied them, and this had to be stopped. And this was for not just even long term. This was for existential concerns right now. And we have found out last week they actually launched a couple of ballistic missiles all the way into the Indian Ocean that traveled over 2,000 miles. There's been denial from Iran for a number of years that they are developing intercontinental ballistic missiles. That range from Tehran of those kind of missiles would reach almost all of the European capitals. And yet the Europeans are sitting on their hands and saying, you go, America, we're rooting for you, instead of rolling up their sleeves and getting involved in this fight. So there's just a lot of interesting developments here. But the crap that it was only the people in the Middle East, predominantly Israel, that was that was threatened here, has been proven completely wrong. The United Arab Emirates has been bombed almost 3 times more than even Israel since this began, because the once again, I don't know, I'm running out of adjectives to call them, these imbeciles, these ancient, antiquated goofballs that have been running Iran with this whole apocalyptic vision, believe that the United Arab Emirates has completely sold out, a Muslim country that is sold out to the West. So they are absolutely raining their rage down on them. But guess what? Over the last few weeks, that rain has dwindled to a drizzle, because they're almost out of weapons. They've shot their load, I guess you could say, and now they're just a weak, wounded animal that is just clinging to survival. And And Trump has given them a grace period to negotiate a settlement. But the next step, if they do not take that, they've already found out what the wrath of the West will be. And the whole country could be completely destroyed and decimated in the next step of this thing. But the whole point to me is you keep hearing our media saying, well, this is not going well in Iran. We have no exit strategy. What are we really accomplishing? It's just Donald Trump flexing his muscles and trying to be the big bully. These poor Iranian people, they're being subjected to all of this. Iranian civilians have not been attacked. It has been military infrastructure. It has been government facilities. It has been factories and manufacturing locations to produce these war time weapons. Iran had become the biggest supplier of drones, military drones. The Russians have been their biggest customer. A reason that the conflict, the war in Ukraine, and that is an actual war, has continued to this extent is because of the production by the Iranians of these attack drones, and they have deployed them like crazy. But when you hear the terminology from our press, who is biased and is ideological and is left leaning, they're left, period, embracing this Marxist radical left step for our country that was never intended to be our destiny. And what really is disturbing is it has never worked anywhere in the world. But that is what these elite Ivy League media people really believe is the destiny for our country and the best course of action. But they keep talking about, well, now Trump is deploying Marines over there. We're going to have boots on the ground soon. We're going to have all kinds of American casualties. This is going to be terrible. This is out of control. This just in, everybody. Boots on the ground. Yeah, okay. In Ukraine, right now, the Russians and the defenders of the Ukrainian country are definitely on the ground. But the war is not being fought in the traditional sense of people lining up and exchanging fire. It is already automated there. I just mentioned the drones, very sophisticated missile systems. It basically is a battle for territory like old-timey war. The Russians did invade Ukraine, but this, I've said several times here on this program, this is probably going to be just about the end of this kind of nonsense because conventional warfare, fighting for ground is just not the way of the world anymore. And everybody is kind of slow to understand that this is not something that's coming. Artificial intelligence, automated warfare, drone attacks, unmanned, of course. And I even saw that the Navy has developed a whole string of ships that are basically robotically controlled. So you're going to be able to have ships go into areas for different military operations that don't have any human beings aboard. It's all automated, it's all robotic. The era of conventional warfare, if you go back and watch Saving Private Ryan and what those guys that stormed Normandy Beach endured in 1944, when you watch that, you will see what real warfare used to be. That is not going to occur anymore because we live in a society now that again, this is not a coming trend. This train has arrived at the station and is being deployed as we speak. So don't buy this crap that we're going to invade Iran and endanger our soldiers. There could be some human incursion, but it's going to be for a specific purpose. Like finding this supply supposedly of enriched uranium and removing it, things very specialized along those lines. And we're more than able to protect our personnel. We have had some casualties in this war, but they've been almost all related to some accidental things, some kind of happenstance. A strike on that barracks in Kuwait took out six of our military heroes. I don't know if it was during the day or in the middle of the night, but that was unfortunate that that was not detected and shot down. And the six closest to home here in Alabama, people staged here in Birmingham, four casualties from that group that were with the Alabama National Guard that were aboard a refueling plane that unfortunately collided with an aircraft that they were trying to service in midair. If you've ever watched that, it is absolutely unbelievable what our military folks routinely do of fueling planes in mid-flight, and it's extremely dangerous. And in this time, a tragic accident resulted in the death of six or seven of the casualties so far. So it has not been so much with direct conflict with the enemy; it has been some unfortunate circumstances, and that doesn't diminish their heroism and the magnitude of their loss. But it's not conventional warfare anymore, folks, and everybody needs to get hip to that trip because the days of marching in and seizing territory and engaging with a enemy firing back at you, those days are just in the past. Warfare is completely different now, and recruiting warriors is completely different now. You need as many computer nerds and technical experts, actually more than you need, guys that are in tip-top shape and, put on their fatigues and lace up their boots every day. It's a changing dynamic, and it's fascinating. I urge you to use the different AI services, ask them questions about modern day warfare and things are being developed. It's absolutely a fascinating subject. One quick final thought that's not related to that. Congress has failed America. I've been beating on this drum for a couple of weeks. It is not just the leftists, the radical Democrat Marxist. The Democrat Party as we know it is gone. The leftist Marxist Party is now the opposing party to the traditional congenial Republican Party, and both of them are guilty. Both of them are complicit. They don't give a damn about the American people. We still have clogged airports, 5.5 hours lines to get through security, the most basic thing that the airports provide. That needs to be privatized by the airports. Get the federal government the hell out of that business. At least the president over the weekend, and of course, the Democrats, because they're so mad that they can't disrupt your schedule anymore. It's illegal what he's doing. He can't find money from other sources to pay these TSA agents. These people haven't been paid in almost 6 weeks. A lot of them have quit. We've had just disastrous delays, particularly in Houston, Texas. My broadcast partner, Terry Quilliam, was in line for 5.5 hours, and she got to the airport 6 hours early, thankfully, barely made her flight about a week ago. But this is absolutely an abomination. It's not necessary. It's just a pissing match between the two sides, the traditional Republicans who are too dignified to get in the mud and wrestle with these Marxists who are desperate to try and regain control of this country. They have failed. We need a brand new party, and we need everybody who believes in America to be on board. The American Revival Party. I'm ready to start it. I'm ready to get it up and running because that's where all the people that really believe in America and the concepts of individual liberty, government of the people, by the people, for the people, that's where we all need to convene, and we need to demand that the American citizens and their needs come first. This whole deal of punishing people at the airport is not an accident. They are not collateral damage. They are being targeted because many of the mobile public, excuse me, I'm choking up on this, who dare to oppose the transition of our country from these radical left maniacs. You heard it in Minneapolis when they invaded that church service and said, "Why are you people in here worshiping your God when your fellow citizens are being killed in the streets by your government? How dare you live your lives and pursue what you want to do with your life?" I mentioned last week I've got an upcoming trip about a week from now. I hope the president's action has fixed that because I'm doing things like going to a couple professional conclaves for my particular business, and also some personal missions of going to see the woman that I care about most of all in the world and have some very important conversations with her, and being in Las Vegas next weekend to celebrate the birthday of my granddaughter, her first birthday. These are things I want to be part of, and I don't need to be punished at the airport for wanting to live my life because I'm not out in the streets with all these blue hairs from Woodstock and all these people who can't tell you who their senator is, who their representatives are, or tell you anything about how our government is structured. That's the idiots that they've got out in the street doing their dirty work. And this is a nefarious thing we have. And we don't have an opposing party on the Republican side that has the balls or the strength to stand up to them and take the steps necessary to shut this down. And did you see what they all did? They had a break scheduled for 2 weeks last Saturday night or Friday night, I think it was, at 2 a.m. They said, okay, all enough of this. Let's just pass this BS thing that gives neither side what they want after 48 days of division and people not getting paid and people being inconvenienced just so they could get out of town for their 2-week Easter break. They threw together this baloney settlement. Both parties are responsible. It's time to sweep all 100 senators out, all 435 representatives out, and start the hell over. We've got to turn the page. It has gotten to the point where it's just about the egos and the conceit and arrogance of the people we put in Washington, and it's got to stop. They got paid the whole time. The government was shut down, but guess what? They got their check. And you know what? When they go to the airport, they're escorted to the front of the line. "Oh, Senator. Oh, Mr. Representative, come with me. We'll take you right on the plane." It's time for them to experience the same thing that they are wishing on American citizens. It's time to turn the page, and American voters, you have failed also because you keep sending the same morons back to Washington every 2 years in the House of Representatives, every 6 years in the Senate. You've got guys that are up there for 30 years. It's absolutely ridiculous. They're all at fault. Your guy is not doing a good job for you because he's part of the problem or she's part of the problem. Vote against incumbents in these upcoming elections. We got to go a different direction. We got to turn the page and start over. That's what you needed to know. I'm Kip Kiefer here on TKR. Thanks for listening. Hopefully we threw a few grains of thought particles that you can mix in to contemplate events in the country and in the world that you need to know. Thanks so much, everybody. See you next week.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Curry Radio.